The hotel lobby buzzed with quiet luxury. Polished floors gleamed under golden chandeliers, and the scent of fresh flowers filled the air. Guests checked in, bellhops hurried with luggage, and everything ran smoothly. Until she walked in. Mia stepped inside, adjusting the strap of her designer handbag. She had been traveling all day and couldn't wait to relax in the five-star suite her father had booked for her. But as she approached the front desk, the receptionist's expression changed. The warm smile faded, replaced by something colder, something Mia had seen before. "Can I help you?" the woman behind the counter asked, her tone clipped. Mia handed over her reservation details, but the receptionist barely glanced at them before shaking her head. "I'm sorry, but we don't have a booking under your name." Mia frowned. "That can't be right. My father made the reservation weeks ago. Can you check again?" The receptionist hesitated, then leaned in slightly, lowering her voice. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave." For a moment, Mia thought she misheard. "What?" "This hotel has a certain standard. I don't think you belong here." Maya's stomach dropped. She had seen this before, felt it before, that unspoken assumption, that silent judgment. She wasn't dressed any differently from the other guests, and her card had just worked at the airport lounge. There was only one reason she was being treated this way. "I want to speak to a manager," she said firmly. But before she could, security was already approaching. Two men in dark uniforms flanked her, their expressions unreadable. "Ma'am, we're going to have to ask you to leave," one of them said. The entire lobby had gone quiet. Guests stared. Some whispered. Mia took a deep breath. She could argue, could fight back, but she knew how this usually ended. Instead, she reached into her bag, pulled out her phone, and made one call. "Hey, Dad, I need you to come to the hotel. Now." On the other end, there was a brief silence, then a measured, controlled voice. "I'll be there in 5 minutes." Mia smiled, just a little. Because what the hotel staff didn't know, what they were about to regret was that her father wasn't just any man. He was Senator James Carter, and nobody disrespected his daughter. To be continued. The tension in the lobby was thick. Mia stood her ground, phone still clutched in her hand, while the security guards exchanged glances. The receptionist crossed her arms, looking more annoyed than concerned. She probably thought Mia was bluffing. A few guests whispered to each other, stealing glances at Mia. Some looked uncomfortable, while others seemed entertained, as if watching a scene unfold in a movie. But for Mia, this wasn't entertainment. This was yet another moment where she had to prove herself in a world that constantly questioned her place. Minutes passed, and then the sound of polished dress shoes against the marble floor made heads turn. A tall man in a sharp navy blue suit walked through the entrance, his presence commanding the room without a single word. Senator James Carter had arrived. Maya's father wasn't just powerful. He carried himself in a way that made people listen. His piercing gaze scanned the room, instantly locking onto his daughter. Mia let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. The hotel manager, an older man in a crisp gray suit, rushed forward, recognizing him immediately. His face paled as he adjusted his tie. "Senator Carter, what an unexpected surprise," he said, forcing a smile. James ignored him for a moment and walked straight to Mia, placing a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice low but firm. Mia nodded, but the frustration in her eyes told him everything. Finally, he turned his attention to the receptionist and the security guards. "Would someone like to explain why my daughter was just asked to leave?" His voice was calm, but there was an unmistakable edge to it. The receptionist suddenly looked nervous. Sir, we didn't realize. James raised an eyebrow. Didn't realize asterisk what asterisk? That my daughter had a reservation. That she belongs here just as much as any other guest. His tone was sharp now, and the entire lobby fell into silence. The manager stepped in quickly. Senator, I assure you, this is a misunderstanding. We, value all our guests. Mia scoffed, folding her arms. Funny. That's not how I was treated 5 minutes ago. The security guards, who had been so eager to escort her out, now looked unsure of themselves. The receptionist avoided eye contact completely. James took a slow breath, keeping his composure. I suggest you choose your next words carefully, he said, glancing at the manager. Because one thing was clear, this situation was far from over. The manager swallowed hard, glancing around as if searching for an escape. Guests were still watching, their curiosity growing by the second. The weight of the situation was finally sinking in, but the damage had already been done. Senator Carter, the manager began, his voice wavering slightly. I assure you, this was simply a misunderstanding. Had we known who your daughter was? James cut him off with a sharp look. And that's the problem, isn't it? Asterisk you asterisk had to know who she was before treating her with basic respect. The manager opened his mouth to respond, but no words came out. The security guards shifted uncomfortably, avoiding eye contact, and the receptionist looked down, suddenly very interested in the desk in front of her. Mia exhaled slowly, shaking her head. You assumed I didn't belong here, she said, her voice steady but laced with disappointment. You didn't check my reservation. You didn't even ask me any questions. You just decided. The manager cleared his throat, forcing a nervous smile. Miss Carter, of course, you're welcome to stay. We would be happy to upgrade your suite as an apology. Mia let out a short, humorless laugh. So now that my father is here, I'm asterisk welcome asterisk. That's not an apology. That's damage control. James took a step closer, his presence alone making the manager flinch. Let me make one thing clear, he said, his voice dangerously calm. My daughter should never have needed asterisk me asterisk to be here for her to be treated fairly. She is more than capable of standing on her own. The fact that you and your staff saw a young woman and assumed she didn't belong, that tells me everything I need to know about this hotel. The weight of his words settled over the room. The guests who had been eavesdropping suddenly found other things to look at. The security guards exchanged glances, but remained silent. Even the receptionist, who had been so quick to dismiss Mia, now seemed to shrink under the scrutiny. Then from the corner of the lobby, a voice spoke up. I saw the whole thing. Mia turned, spotting a middle-aged woman standing near the seating area. She was elegantly dressed, her pearl necklace glinting under the warm lights. She walked in like any other guest, but the moment she reached the desk, the attitude changed. I was waiting for my bags and saw the way she was treated. The manager looked panicked now. Ma'am, I'm sure this is all. The woman held up a hand, silencing him. I was about to book an event at this hotel for over 100 guests. She reached into her bag and pulled out a card. But after what I just witnessed, I think I'll take my business elsewhere. A ripple of murmurs spread through the crowd. The manager's face turned pale. Losing a single guest was one thing, but losing an entire event, that was a financial hit the hotel couldn't afford. James watched the exchange, his expression unreadable. Then he turned back to Mia. What do you want to do? Mia glanced at the staff, then at the growing crowd. She had a choice to make. And whatever she decided, this hotel would never forget this moment. The silence in the lobby felt heavier now. The manager's forced smile had vanished, replaced by a strained expression as he processed what was happening. The woman who had spoken up was already tucking her business card back into her purse, making it clear that she wasn't bluffing. Mia could feel the weight of the moment pressing on her. This wasn't just about her anymore. People were watching, listening, realizing what had just unfolded. And some of them were clearly rethinking their choice to stay at this hotel. The manager's voice broke the tension. "Miss Carter, please. We truly regret this misunderstanding." His tone was more desperate now, less controlled. He could see the situation spiraling beyond his grasp. "If there's anything we can do to fix this, just name it." Mia glanced at her father. James Carter was still unreadable, his expression calm but unshakable. He wasn't going to make this decision for her. This was her moment. She turned back to the manager. "You want to fix this?" she asked, her voice even. "Tell me, how many times has something like this happened before? And how many times did the person asterisk not asterisk have a senator for a father?" The manager's throat bobbed as he swallowed. He didn't answer. Mia took a step closer. "Would you have listened if I hadn't called my dad? Would I still be standing here if I were just another guest, alone?" The growing murmurs in the lobby made it clear. Everyone knew the answer. James finally spoke, his voice sharp. "I want to speak to the owner of this hotel. Right now." The manager blanched. "Sir, the owner isn't." "Then get them on the phone," James interrupted, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Because this isn't going to be swept under the rug. You don't get to humiliate people, then throw them an upgraded room and expect it to go away." Mia crossed her arms, waiting. The manager hesitated for only a second before scrambling toward the back office, pulling out his phone as he went. The tension in the air remained thick. Security had taken a step back, looking unsure of what to do next. Guests were still watching, some pretending to scroll through their phones while keeping their ears open. Then the front doors swung open again. This time, it wasn't just another guest. A tall man in an expensive suit walked in, his presence commanding immediate attention. He was flanked by two assistants, their expressions serious. The hotel owner had arrived. And now there was no turning back. The hotel owner strode in with an air of authority, his sharp eyes scanning the room as if already trying to assess the damage. The manager hurried over to him, whispering frantically, but it was clear from the owner's stiff expression that he wasn't pleased. James turned, standing tall as the man approached. "I assume you've been briefed on what happened here," he said, his voice controlled but firm. The owner nodded slowly. "I have," he replied. "And let me first say, Senator Carter, this is not how we operate. I deeply regret the way your daughter was treated." Mia watched him closely, searching for any real sincerity in his words. He spoke smoothly, professionally, but there was something about the way his gaze flickered between her and the growing number of guests watching that made her wonder, was he actually sorry or just trying to protect his hotel's reputation? Before she could respond, a voice cut through the tension. "That's funny," someone said from behind them. "Because it asterisk is asterisk how you operate." Everyone turned toward the entrance. A young man in his mid-20s stood there, arms crossed, his expression unreadable. He wore a fitted blazer and carried himself with quiet confidence. But what stood out the most was the way the hotel owner's face drained of color the moment he saw him. The owner stiffened. "Noah," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Maya's eyes flicked between them. Whoever this guy was, he wasn't just any guest. He asterisk knew asterisk the owner. And judging by the tension in the air, there was a history here. Noah took a step forward, his voice steady. "It's been a long time, hasn't it?" he said. "I'd say I'm surprised to see things haven't changed, but that would be a lie." Mia exchanged a glance with her father, who was now watching the scene unfold with quiet interest. The owner's jaw tightened. This is not the time. It's exactly the time, Noah interrupted. Because what happened to her? He gestured toward Mia. It's the same thing that's happened to many people who walked through those doors. The only difference is, this time, the wrong person got mistreated. This time, you got caught. A hush fell over the lobby. The guests who had been quietly observing now leaned in, their curiosity piqued. Maya's pulse quickened. Who or asterisk you? She asked, her voice careful but curious. Noah turned to her, his expression softening slightly. Someone who knows exactly how this place operates, he said. Then after a beat, he added, asterisk and asterisk someone who has proof. The air shifted instantly. The owner's hands curled into fists. Noah, don't. Mia straightened, her breath catching. Proof? James took a slow step forward. Go on, he said, his voice unreadable. I'd love to hear more. The tension, already thick, now crackled with something new. The hotel owner looked trapped, his carefully composed mask slipping. And in that moment, Mia knew this was much bigger than just her. Noah reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out his phone. With a few taps, he turned the screen toward the crowd. A video started playing, and immediately the entire room fell silent. On the screen was a security camera recording, grainy but clear enough to see everything. A woman, dressed in professional attire, stood at the front desk. The receptionist barely glanced at her before shaking his head. Moments later, 2 security guards appeared, leading her toward the exit. The timestamp showed it was from just a few weeks ago. Maya's stomach turned. She didn't need to hear the audio to know exactly what was happening. The murmurs in the lobby grew louder. People were starting to connect the dots. This wasn't an isolated incident, it was a pattern. The hotel owner's face was red now, his composure slipping. Where did you get that? He demanded. Noah didn't flinch. I used to work here, he said simply. I saw things. I tried to speak up, and you made sure I was silenced. Mia felt her father shift beside her. James was watching the owner carefully, his expression unreadable. Is this true? He asked, his voice deceptively calm. The owner hesitated for a fraction of a second, just long enough for everyone to see the answer on his face before he even spoke. These are private recordings, he said instead. This is a breach of company policy. Noah let out a sharp laugh. That's all you've got, he said, not a denial, just damage control. The tension reached its peak. The guests who had been silent spectators were now whispering among themselves, some pulling out their phones. The hotel staff looked nervous, shifting on their feet as if debating whether to step in. Then James spoke. I think we've seen enough. His voice carried authority, making even the security guards straighten. He turned to the manager, who had been watching helplessly from the side. Call the board, James ordered. Now. The manager hesitated, glancing at the owner. James met his gaze, his expression cold. Or I will. The weight of those words hung in the air. The manager's face paled, and within seconds he pulled out his phone and stepped away. Mia exhaled slowly, realizing what was happening. This wasn't just about exposing the hotel. Her father was making sure there were consequences, real ones. The owner looked around, as if searching for a way out. But there wasn't one. Not anymore. Then just when Mia thought she had seen it all, the front doors opened once again. A woman stepped inside, poised, confident, dressed in a sharp navy blue suit. The moment she entered, the owner's face drained of color. Mia turned toward Noah. Who is that? She asked. Noah smirked. That, he said, lowering his voice, is the real owner of the hotel. Maya's breath caught. The owner of the hotel wasn't the man standing in front of them, scrambling to keep control. He had been answering to someone else this entire time. And now that someone was here. The woman's heels clicked against the marble floor as she made her way toward them. Her gaze locked on the man who had been desperately trying to control the situation. The tension in the air shifted. The hotel owner, asterisk, or rather, the man they thought was the owner, asterisk, stood frozen, his confidence shattered. She stopped in front of him, her expression unreadable. "Michael," she said coolly, "I think it's time we had a